Hello, and welcome back to Cryptids of the Corn podcast. I am the great and powerful Mr. E, and once again, I have definitely replaced Jay and upgraded him dramatically. Tonight, we are going to be joined by Austin and Ricky with the Cryptid Investigation Association. If I don't missay anything, I will say that for Jay's credit, everybody at home. I hate doing the intros because I talk so fast that I'm going to mumble somebody's name one of these times or their name. But Austin, Ricky, thank you for being on here.
Yeah, no problem.
Looking forward to the event. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. We already got people in here. It normally takes a couple of minutes. Hey, whoever's in here, say hi. So like I said, we'll give it 4 or 5 minutes. Let people kind of get in here and get situated, and then we'll get rocking and rolling.
Okay.
But until then, let's talk. We'll just talk. But so I got a bone to pick, and I didn't know you were going to do it right again before we started interviewing. The first thing Ricky did when we met is he walked up to me, and he pretty much just said the words "Sandhill Crane." If anybody remembers back to the Mothman saga, which we'll never do again, we may revisit some of them, but we'll never do that one. Literally, right before we got on here, was it Austin or was it Ricky sent me a picture of the Sandhill Crane? Sent me a picture of the Sandhill Crane Preserve. I just was. It's still a sore spot, and it's everybody hasn't seen a Sandhill Crane. The DNR in Ohio actually just did a post today about reintroduction for Sandhill Cranes here in Ohio. It's not the Mothman. Whoever said that is still, I forget his name. I refuse to remember it. Whoever that poor man is should have been fired. I don't understand why he never said owl. It looked like an owl. Just say it was an owl. It's his right shape. It's crazy.
Maybe he thinks the Sandhill Crane has been cheated out of something, and he's just trying to get him back in the limelight.
Yeah. Give Sandhill Cranes the love they deserve.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like down here in Georgia, everybody would blame everything on the blue heron because there's so many of those around.
We have a lot of blue herons up here, too. Sandhill Cranes are not very common in the north. You know, there's a lot of them in Michigan, but they pretty much fly over the Midwest and fly over Appalachia and go down south for the winter. Right. So you see them in Ohio every once in a great while, but they're not blue herons. You could drive anywhere in this county and look in a creek, and you'll see a blue heron.
Yep.
Or a barn owl. Every barn has a barn owl.
Yep. Well,
they came with the building.
Austin got that photo in Mississippi. We were down there on I-10 in Mississippi, and he just had to have a picture of that. So.
Oh, yeah. And I said, jokingly, this is satire. They should grab that sign for the new studio.
Definitely.
Because everybody. Yeah. Wink, wink. And here's its location. But I'm awful. But yeah, so I know we said on the podcast, I don't know if we said on YouTube yet, but we are getting a new studio. It's 30 by 30 foot building, address, all that stuff. We actually just went the other day to get quotes for the signage. So it's going to have this big glass etched neon sign for the front of the building that has Harry in the cornfield. And they're going to actually circle, and they're going to do the whole edge in corn stalks. And then on the outside, we're getting a big metal one by the road. It's got a parking lot and everything.
You guys are moving up the Ghostbusters tier.
I know. I'm going, we got one! Thank you, Strange. So Barry Holmes is in here. What's up, guys? Hey, Barry.
Hey, Barry.
We love Barry. And Strange Roach is here. What's up, guys? And he said, congratulations on the new studio. We appreciate you. Yeah, once again, ignore that. Sorry, guys. But we met, and I remember, because we're going to keep telling stories for here a second. Oh, we just jumped up to 6 viewers already.
Woo!
So, Austin, you're going to get a whole crowd in here. And I remember walking up to Ricky after we met and everything, and we got all those pictures. And I was like, hey, just so you know, we're going to hang out at the bar later. Your son's young. You guys are welcome to come, but when I start drinking, it's party time. And I always can't remember. Austin was probably sitting like right here with me, and the Wild Bill thing still makes me laugh to this day because now we know Wild Bill pretty good. Like we called him, he's been up here, all this stuff. Do you know Christina?
I know a Krista.
Krista, sorry.
Yeah,
there she is. That's Mom.
Okay.
That's Mom.
But yeah, so we're sitting there, and I've been drinking for a little bit, and I didn't pay for a single drink that night. I finally found out who paid for my bar at Crypticon. Anyways, I look over at Austin. I'm like, "Did you get a picture with him today?" He's like, "No, he was gone every time I went over." I'm like, "Do you want a picture with him?" He's like, "Oh no, it's okay." I'm like, "I know Wild Bill. We'll get a picture." Yeah, but it's like, all right. And I slammed Wild Bill in the back, and he grabbed you, took pictures. But man, he's rough, isn't he?
Hoorah!
Hoorah! Hoorah! I can't show it over there, but the whole wall has a big. We were speakers at the same event with him last year, and I bought his banner basically for the event and made him sign it for me. But yeah, so everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. Once again, this is Austin Ricky with the Cryptid Investigation Association out of Georgia. Are we just saying Georgia? Or are we giving any more specific than that?
Well,
west to Covington, Georgia.
Yeah, Middle Georgia.
Middle Georgia. And we have Brandon. Hey, Justin Lamb's in here. Hi, Justin. Brandon, another Patreon member. He's out of Georgia too, and so is Preston. Preston may be in here in a little bit. They're out of Georgia, but I think one of them is over by Mississippi. And then one of them is East Coast, I think.
Okay.
So on both ends of you.
So we're in the middle. So.
Yeah. Georgia's a big state.
I'll tell you, Georgia's got a little bit of everything as far as it's got mountains, it's got coast, it's got coastal plain, it's got Piedmont. I mean, it's got just about any kind of geography that you can think of other than snow. No snow.
The best geography. You guys just don't know what you're missing when you open that door and everything's disappeared. It's like you woke up in a dream. It's weird.
Yeah, we don't have that around here much.
I
got yelled at.
Trade places with you, Justin.
We almost got kicked out of Arkansas the one year we went down because it snowed that year.
Wow.
And it was like the first time we were in Texarkana. So we were about as far south Arkansas as you can be in Arkansas. And it snowed. And they're like, what the hell did you guys do?
Why'd y'all bring that here?
And I know it's like we didn't do nothing. And we're nonchalant. It's still like 31 degrees. And we're like, this is fine. We're ready to go fishing in the boat, crappie fish and stuff like that. And they're all like, no, we can't leave the house. We're all going to die.
Go get bread and milk.
I was like, what are you talking about? I've literally seen feet of snow in an hour. We're fine. And they're like, but it's just how the South is compared to the North. But we also don't have mosquitoes that can carry off, and they do.
Yep, that's for sure.
And I think we've given enough time for people to get in here, start getting along. Mikey's taking over my chat, which is good. Somebody has to watch it since I'm not doing anything. Thank you, Mikey. But I know we have a presentation set up for these guys. We don't have to get right into that. This is your guys' show. Why don't you first say who you are, how you came to be doing what you're doing, and what maybe some of your plans are for the future.
Austin, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Austin Crumbly, and what probably started me liking cryptid stuff was that we went on a road trip to Maine, and on the way somewhere we stopped at a Bigfoot museum, and I bought like a little pamphlet that had like tracks and like heights and like branch structures and stuff, and like where they were mostly found. So we're going smack dab in the middle of where it says they're found. So we get out there, and we were staying in this cabin, or we were going to be staying in this cabin. So we get out in the woods out behind the cabin on an old dirt road, and we knock on a tree a couple of times, and like 5-10 seconds later, we hear something knock on a tree about 100 yards away. So then we got back in the car and drove back to the cabin. But yeah, that was probably the inciting incident, if you will.
So you actually do you feel it was an actual tree knock, or do you feel it was somebody messing with you?
I feel like it was too far out in the woods to be someone messing with you.
We were 14 miles out of logging road. We were just riding that dirt road, and we were almost up to the top of a hill, which they had clear cut and made their deck for the logging. And we come to the top, turn around, and maybe come 50 yards back off the top and stopped. And I was just joking around because I wasn't much of a believer there either. But I told Austin, yeah, go bust on a tree out there, man. And he hit it 3 times, and it was, like he said, almost immediate, a complete mimic of what he did. It was the same cadence that he had hit the tree, and it literally wasn't 100 yards away. A little too close for my comfort as well. I'm like, wait a minute, that was too quick and too close. So he looked at me, I looked at him, and we decided to head on back down the mountain.
Don't blame you. Because, everybody, I think every Bigfoot enthusiast has done that jokingly once. At least once, they're just being out in the woods and stuff like that. And I tell everybody, if you're getting into Bigfoot, then you're doing what we're going to talk about you guys are doing. You really have to like nature. Because 90% of the time, you're on a nature hike. 99% of the time, you're on a nature hike. Right. And, but having a response, I'd be like, all right, it's time to get in the car, let's go. Everybody, come on. Especially being that far down a logging road and stuff like that, way out in the boonies. And I don't know, there's kind of this weird, like the knocking, I know for 100% it's Sasquatch related, but nobody really knows what it is because nobody's ever witnessed the behavior. At least nobody's ever come forward and say, yeah, I watched a Bigfoot hit this piece of wood against a tree.
Other than with an alligator,
Yeah, with an alligator.
Oh, yeah. An alligator's a little different. An alligator's like a biting piece of wood.
But you don't really know what that is, if it's a sign of aggression or a sign of just acknowledgement. And when you've got your son there, you don't want to sit there and second guess what could be aggression.
It's time to move, and 100%. Because how old were you then, Austin?
Probably like 4, 5, 6.
He was about 6, yeah. So he was a young man.
Perfect food.
Yeah.
I kind of think personally, they don't do it with anything. It's a guttural sound.
Okay.
People that don't know this, maybe look up howler monkeys, and they'll actually click, and it sounds like a car door slamming almost.
Right.
It's so weird. It doesn't sound organic.
Well, and when you can get out there and be heard for hundreds of miles,
I mean, and sound travels a lot farther than people think in the woods or over water. If you're not in the woods a lot, you don't realize sound don't travel near as far in urban settings as it does out in the wilderness.
100%. Yeah, like you're saying on a lake and stuff too. If you're around water or valley or the rivers and stuff like that, it'll go miles down those river valleys.
And like with you saying it doesn't sound natural, there are plenty of animals that are documented that don't sound natural, like the freaking bird in Africa that sounds like a siren going off,
Yeah. That's actually going to be a freaky fauna in a couple weeks. It's the buzzer bird or the buzz bird. That's literally what they named. It translates to like buzzer because it's, everybody don't know, that is the loudest animal above water. 168 decibels.
That's just crazy.
A jet taking off is 140. So it's like this big.
Yep.
It's okay.
Gotta love the grandkids.
That's what happens when you have a family.
But yeah, the story in Maine really got us both started into this traveling just to areas of hot spots and talking to the different people where we're at and trying different things. And we've had some, what I feel like are encounters with sounds everywhere from Maine to Florida. We've had several different occasions where we hear what we feel like was a Sasquatch type creature. I know Florida calls them skunk apes, and I know things like that, but but we've had several encounters because we're more looking to go to those type of places now on our little road trips that we take.
Yeah, and I don't want to give anything away, but guys, later on here in a bit, you're going to see some really cool stuff. Sorry about that. It keeps doing it. The Wi-Fi sucks. I'm so excited for the new studio because we're getting a lot better Wi-Fi. But yeah, so cool. And if anybody hasn't picked up on it, you guys are father-son.
Yes.
Which is amazing. My dad always took me like, it's weird. I was a weird kid. I was a difficult kid. I'll be fair. But my dad always supported every weird interest we had and stuff like that. But I would drag like whole reptiles home and literally have drawers of snakes. So I had a pretty supportive dad when he'd open the drawer and see it full of frogs and snakes. He'd be like, okay, let's try not to do this anymore.
Yep.
And he's like, you can have a tank and put a snake in it, but not 50.
Yep.
But no, so that's awesome. And then let's talk about the Cryptid Investigation Association.
Well, you want to go with this one?
You can get it started.
Okay. We basically just wanted to get a Facebook page going and just try to get some information from people so they would contact us so we can find new places to go and investigate, because we like to go out on our own and see things. But if somebody has already had a sighting or thought they've had some interaction, it gives us more of a place to go to. So we're hoping to be invited to different places to do more investigation. And we bought different equipment to try to help us. We've got night vision. We're in the process of getting FLIR, heat seeking. And the night vision is a video as well as a still camera. And so, I mean, I feel like we're getting more equipment. And I've got, I'm a photographer by trade, so I have a lot of low light equipment that I can use before I even bought the night vision stuff. So we're hoping that we can get more people to get in on our Facebook page and invite us down to see what they've seen and investigate what they feel like and learn from each other. We're not saying we're the masters of this, but we may know something you don't know, and you may know something we don't know. And together we might be able to piece together that puzzle, and find a little more of what we both consider proof.
100%. Austin, what do you have to add?
Well, for one, I'm going to have to add that sorry if I end up doing the type of stuff that Jay does where I, just randomly have a thought come to my head. Because, like you might have seen just then when he was talking about that, I just mouthed, do you see with what I see,
Do you see what I see?
There we are. He's my Jay.
Yeah, there you go. Everybody needs one. I'll tell you, most big podcasts right now have a Justin and they have a Jay.
Yep, that's for sure.
But yeah, so this is awesome. And you guys have found some really cool stuff, which I'm very excited for. But do you have anything? I know we had something. Did we have something planned that already passed, or did you? I can't remember. We talked so much.
We were planning to go down to Lake Seminole to look for the stump jumper, which is basically a Bigfoot type creature. But I believe most of the sightings down there talk about a lighter colored white, not snow white, I don't think, but from what I hear, a lighter colored
type thing.
Creature, but more, and a smaller type creature, more like what the Florida skunk ape descriptions are, in the 6 to 8 foot range as a big, instead of the 9 to 12 foot type of things. But it's been seen. Lake Seminole is on the Florida Georgia line. He goes off to country singers, Florida Georgia line. Anyway, Bless his heart. Go Jay. But but the lake is literally on the line down there, and there seems to be more sightings on the Florida side, but I believe that's basically because those people in that town accept it more. I feel like the people from Georgia,
stubborn old goat,
just don't seem to draw into it the same. They want to make excuses for it.
So you're the third person on this show to express that same opinion just about Georgia in general.
Yep.
And Preston and Brandon both expressed that opinion on Patreon episodes and stuff like that. Both Georgia born, raised. And I guess it's just, sorry about that. Ohio is weird because if you're not around Point Pleasant or nothing like that, I don't know. It's weird. I talk about it no matter what. So I'm not a good baseline. I don't care if you're not into it or you're into it. We're gonna sit at the bar and I'm gonna get drunk and I'm gonna start yelling that Bigfoot's real and the Mothman tried to abduct a baby one time.
I seen it.
I yelled that at work 3 days ago. Thought I was getting fired.
But yeah, I think Georgia's a tough place to try to build any kind of credibility because I still throw it back to the Bible Belt. If it don't go according to what everybody's idea of creation is,
idea.
And like they try to debunk it, and anything out of the straight line, they just say no.
And I hate it when they do stuff like that because like you don't know for sure what the straight line is because you weren't there when God made Earth. You could have made a Bigfoot.
So
the Bible talks about giants. It talks about hairy men. It talks literally about wild men and mermaids and leviathans. So
unicorns. There's a verse in the Bible about unicorns. I always go to that. I say, "Do you believe in unicorns?" No, I don't believe in unicorns.
Bible.
And I say, "Well, there's your Bible verse right there."
It literally talks about behemoths and leviathans and like all this stuff. So that's my big. I go to a non-denominational church. And they're pretty easygoing about all of it, Like you said, no, we weren't there. The Bible's on its 23rd translation.
Yep.
So I'm sure some stuff's gotten jumbled.
Austin translation.
Yep.
Along the way. I can't remember. I think it was the 16th version had the sea monks, and that's where mermaids came from.
Right.
They were literally a group of monks, but it translated one time wrong, and then it became mermaids for the next 10.
When you're dealing through languages, there's words that just don't have a word in the other language. There just is. And you have to find something to fit there. I wouldn't want to be a translator.
No, I can't speak this language.
So I think that's one of the big problems of Georgia. But you do still have I don't really want to say the word redneck because it's just country folk, and they'll tell you what their grandpa saw and what their grandma said. And they believe it because their grandma don't lie, and that sort of thing. That's the kind of people you get into and you can find your stories because they might tell you, you might not believe this, but
And I know people here that will call you stupid for any, you say you see a weird looking star and they're like, there you go with your aliens again. But I know other people here that they'll believe anything you tell them about this kind of stuff
because they're open to
it. And I know people that don't want to talk about something that they've seen, but they'll tell certain people, but they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to be shot down,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, we've had that happen several times with us. Literally where Harry came from, our Bigfoot in the cornfield. That was that same story. The guy said he didn't believe in Bigfoot, told us that experience, then left, said no, it wasn't Bigfoot. But he told me and Jay it because we were Bigfoot people. Literally he came over to us because we were Bigfoot people. He knew we weren't going to laugh at him. And I think most of these stories, they're everywhere. And I think that's the big issue is that most people will die with their story.
Yep. I think Georgia is ranked number 10 in states of sightings on the BFRO. And it's 140 sightings or something silly like that. I mean, I know good and well there's been hundreds of sightings in all of those top 10 states that just don't call the BFRO.
And like
I didn't call the BFRO about that thing that went on in Maine, but that was an experience, And
like there's like my grandpa, he will come up after a day in the woods and be like, yeah, I don't think it's Bigfoot, but I had something that smelled like it was dead that I couldn't ever find, and I had something shaking a tree at me the other day, but Bigfoot's not real,
Oh, it was a deer.
Yeah, exactly. He has so many things that he can't explain.
It was just another hunter out
there. But
there.
he makes an explanation.
There's a lot. I know a lot of people like that. And they have, they have to have their explanation. And it's because they don't want to, and I think it goes back to that. They don't want to be made fun of. They don't want to be called crazy. I mean, a lot of those are older guys. Like you're saying, your grandpa. I don't know. I'm going to assume he's an older guy, and you got to think before, Bob Gimlin's getting a lot of hate right now and all this stuff. I 100% believe the video personally. There you go, everybody. It's on air. I believe it.
Justin believes the Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin film.
100%. But even if it's not real, that man stood the test of time and made it okay for us all to talk about this in a public space. But so the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it was laughable. And then Harry and the Hendersons came out, and it was a big joke thing. Bigfoot's this big dumb thing that's walking around in the woods, and it's just, I think that's probably the best thing in the last 10 or 20 years is that the government admitted UFOs are real 2 years ago.
Yep.
So it's like, we're all like, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
You see them. But it's just something where it's the paranormal or the supernatural or the extra natural is in the more of the more front row now. So you can go to the bar. Me and Jay talk about Bigfoot all the time. With nobody knows who we are. Nobody's literally coming up and laughing in our faces. They may make fun of us at their table or whatever, but you
they
can
don't
talk about Bigfoot.
Yep, they don't confront you and ridicule you and kick you out of the bar.
Right. Back in the.
But in your grandpa's day, they would have.
Yeah.
They probably beat him up. What
kind of idiot is that?
Yeah. So in his, second nature in his mind, he's going probably through that, or not just him in general. I'm saying that generation and stuff like that.
Yep.
Where no, I can't see Bigfoot. Bigfoot's not real. No, I can't see Bigfoot. Bigfoot's not real. So what is it? So I got to find something. I got to make something up. It happened to be 3 hunters standing on each other's shoulders, shaking a tree with a jetpack. That's what happened.
Yeah, that makes sense. See,
but
I picked through so many photos trying to figure out what to put on our slideshow and what not to. But one of the things that I omitted and didn't put in because I didn't have a good photo to go against it, but I have a picture of a black bear standing on his hind legs. Because you hear that so many times. That was just a black bear. And a black bear looks nothing hominid at all. No. It looks like a black bear standing on his hind legs.
If anything, it looks like a trash can.
Yep. I mean, it's
they're like a cylinder.
Short, dumpy, square. And you can see the little short arms because he has to hold them up to keep his balance.
Yeah.
He can't drop them down like he's walking.
No shoulders, no nothing.
Exactly.
They have shoulders, but when you look at them, it's like almost like you're saying like that, a block.
Yep.
Like I seen a black bear in Michigan by our cabin. I thought it was a trash can that was in the ditch. And it was a black bear.
Yep.
I never thought it was a Bigfoot. I slowed down because I'm like, there's a trash can. I was going to pick somebody's trash can because it fell in the ditch. And, we have a lot of older people in our little community out there. I'm like, I'm going to go get this out because they may not be able to. Start slowing down. It's a bear and he looks up.
You're like,
all right,
no,
well, you have fun.
That trash can alone.
Yeah. But speaking of your PowerPoint, you ready for me to pull it up?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll get started on that, I guess.
No rush. All right, so I'm just your clicker at this point. I'm clicking and ask questions. And before we get rock and rolling, anybody listening right now, coming, going, whatever, please ask your questions. And when we get time, we'll put them up and we'll answer them. So it's your guys' floor.
All right, Austin, your floor.
Well, yeah.
Click.
Click.
Okay.
Now, tell them a little bit about those things, Austin.
So, here's a thing we found of some cryptids from Georgia, and there's plenty more from this, like from the well-known ones to the less-known ones to the ones that like no one knows except for like one specific person that you hear stories from. You know, the Georgia raptor is one that I thought was only a one-time thing, but I believe somewhere I saw that it had been seen more than once in that area. A dinosaur-like creature that has been seen roaming around the wooded areas of Georgia. A creature was originally sighted in 2008. It was like a week or so after my birthday. I looked into this story a month or two ago. But yeah, that was kind of cool. And it was by a guy and his grandfather while hunting. They said it appeared on the dirt road about 150 yards away from them. And this is obviously like cut down from what like that full story is. Like in the full story, it said like I was telling, again, my grandpa, the skeptic of our bunch, I was telling him about it, and he was like, it was probably just a deer. A deer, they sure did see a lot from 150 yards away, you know, but like, I feel like you could tell the difference between a scaly, feathered lizard thing and a deer, you know?
Can I make a comment to that?
Sure.
My brother killed an elk from like 300 yards away. So.
And he knew it was an elk.
Not that far. Look something. Right.
Yeah.
Well, he dropped it.
Yep.
So 150 yards is not that far to see a dinosaur. And know it's a dinosaur versus something else. Sorry, continue. I just had to say that.
Yeah. And we're talking about like supposedly like big dog, like German Shepherd sized lizard, basically. And yeah, so
and it was on a power line.
Yeah, they said it was on a pretty clear spot. So.
It was in a clear area where you can see, you know, more detail. It wasn't coming through a thicket or coming through a pine forest. It was on the edge of a power line, clear cut.
Yeah, and 5 feet tall. And they said it resembled the velociraptors from the Jurassic Park movies, which, you know, every dinosaur expert's going to be like, those aren't what real velociraptors look like, you know. But, I mean, it's still a raptor. Like that's
now,
just...
Either that or a sandhill crane.
I was just about to say it. You took it from me. You took it from me.
Now I'm being jaded.
You can't take a sandhill crane.
I'm going to throw this freaking can against the wall. The time I had it in there. So we actually have a future episode coming out about the Georgia Raptor. I've already started on the script. Didn't know this till today that you guys are having this in there. It was actually cited about 4 times in that little area in that same year, including a Girl Scout troop that's seen it killing sheep.
Wow. See, that's in West Georgia, I believe, is where that was at, like Troup County area. And that's probably about an hour and a half straight west from where we live.
Yeah.
So we've roamed that area a little bit, and we're wanting to roam it a little bit more. Yeah.
Because if I could choose one type of cryptid type thing to see, it would probably either be a dinosaur or a Mothman. You know,
because he loves the dinosaurs in general.
Dinosaurs.
You know,
You're
the fish guy. He's a dinosaur guy.
Yeah, call me a nerd, but I love dinosaurs.
I have a whole drawer of dinosaur bones and megalodon teeth and everything like that.
Yeah. And we love going.
You come up here, you can take your pick.
Yeah, we'll trade you a cast for a dinosaur bone.
Fair.
But like we love going to like the different museums and parks and stuff, you know. And like we have like a Utah raptor claw, and like
awesome.
when you really think about it, it's like these things had to be huge if their claw is this long, you know.
Right, you know.
Like these things had to be incredible, you know. And we have a velociraptor claw, and I want to say a Deinonychus claw, I
think
believe.
So, yeah.
Because we have 3 claws, and then we had like a few like bits and pieces here and there, you know. But yeah, so I guess that's enough about the raptors. Oh wait, one more thing. I don't want you to spoil anything. So if you think this is a spoiler, just tell me.
Go ahead. It's your show.
But do you think that the raptors that they saw were different ones, or do you think it was just the same one that they saw?
in that area, I think it was several different animals. I do think they were probably the same species, whatever they were. But the size changes from this kind of smaller set, like so the original guy with his grandpa out in the woods, seen one I believe was more traditional velociraptor size, large turkey, which is still a very fierce. People don't think it's scary because it's the size of a large turkey. A bobcat's smaller than that, and it'll mess you up.
Yep.
So it's still scary.
Built for attacking
Killing you.
It's gonna be.
Yeah.
But there was a larger one. So like the one that a guy seen running through his field, and the one killing the sheep was literally like dragging the sheep away.
Wow.
So it was a little larger. It wasn't like massive. It wasn't a Utah raptor. And anybody don't understand. Utah raptor stood about 9 foot tall and about 22 foot long. So they were just as big as some of the smaller carnivores from the other branch, from like the not the tyrants, but some other branches. But they were a lot faster. So I do think it was several different animals being seen, and we're kind of wrapping that all in so everybody's listening and get a sneak peek into future episodes. With maybe dragons, or what species that people are seeing from the last several thousand years and calling dragons.
Right.
That they may be these things that are very lightly built, very raptor-like. I don't think they're actual raptors, in my opinion. I think they're long extinct, but I think it was something that looks very similar and that can actually maybe even fly, or their offspring don't fly. Like I think a lot of the stuff that people are seeing is the chicks, and they're very aggressive. Like the Cumberland dragon had feathers. It didn't have wings. Like it had these long, weird arms. It didn't have wings, like feathers with their wings, but it had brown mountain devils. What are you laughing at me for, Austin?
You froze.
When you froze, you were like this.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But no, they had the brown mountain devils and stuff like that were literally described as like raptors in the 1860s or 1870s.
Right.
Before people had an idea of what they looked like, Yeah.
100%. That was during, the Bone Wars were like the 1880s. So it was like 20 or 10 years before that Bone Wars even started. So our understanding of raptors are very, very simple. But to answer your question, I think there were several animals.
Yeah. Okay. So
moving on to this Altamaha river monster. That's one that continues to be seen, and again, a lot of people discredit it, and manatee is the answer they always give.
Or an alligator.
Yeah, manatee or alligator.
Very similar animals. If anybody's ever seen a manatee and an alligator.
Really, when you think about it.
I've touched both.
But the Altamaha River, it is I think it's like the third largest watershed coming into the Atlantic. I mean, it's huge. And it's got three major rivers that run almost through 2/3 of Georgia that empty into the Altamaha and comes out down there at Darien. But I mean, it is a massive river system. I mean, it's not as huge as like the Ohio River or the Mississippi, but it is still a huge river system.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Those aren't like fair comparisons for anything in the world because they're one of the three largest rivers on the planet.
Right.
And I think that's why this river gets overlooked a lot, is because it so it's an Atlantic slope river, but it's right next to the Mississippi drainage.
Right.
So when you looking at them side by side, you're like, oh, this one's extremely bigger. Well, yeah, because it's one of the top three on the planet.
But the Omoggy River, the Ohoopee River, and the Oconee River all empty into the Altamaha River. And the funny thing that I keep telling Austin, picking him about, it's hundreds of miles up into Georgia before either one of those rivers have a dam. So that monster could travel hundreds of miles into fresh water and still be in a nice sized river and be hid. I mean, it can come. We live in the upper central part of Georgia, and Lake Jackson is the first dam on the Ocmulgee River from Darien. So, I mean, it's hundreds of miles up to the first thing that would stop a water traveler. And it's the same way with those other two rivers. You know, it's got hundreds of miles of three rivers, not including the brackish water in the ocean that is seen near mostly down in Darien. You know, but I believe it's a river monster more so than a sea monster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think it's a brackish water and freshwater creature.
And will you kind of describe what it looks like?
Well,
it's one of those things where like you don't like it's always, you know,
it looks a lot like Nessie.
I feel like,
but not as long necked as they usually project Nessie.
Yeah, and
I feel like it's got a smaller build than what they feel like. I feel like it's probably a 12 to 18 foot creature.
And I think the grand consensus is that it's more like serpent like, with like alligator type features to it, kind of. But also looking like the classic like plesiosaur type.
Some say it had flippers, some say it had legs, you know, so it's of course different opinions of what they see, you know, but I don't think it's ever been seen on land. So that kind of gives me I would go for flippers more than legs, because you never see it sunbathing like a gator or anything like that.
Right. It's always been outside
in the water swimming, and they see it come to the top.
So it's kind of funny you said it gets mistaken, or people claim it's a manatee a lot, but it's fairly larger than a manatee. I mean, we have some manatees reaching 14 feet. Don't get me wrong. Manatees are very large animals, but the presence in Georgia is not very much, if at all. I mean, they do go into Georgia. Don't get me wrong, but
not like Florida. It's still cooler water, so they don't get up in there near as much.
But this, you know, like you're saying, I agree with your size estimate. A lot of these are, you know, 12 to 18 foot, 30 maybe at the max. But a lot of the early sightings said it would literally have whole weed beds on its back, or it would like be pulling through these grass mats.
Right.
And it gets so much stuff stuck to it. And it kind of, and we did a Patreon episode about this, but it kind of makes you think more like a Steller sea cow, which for anybody at home doesn't know, Steller sea cow is a manatee cousin that got 40 feet long, but they would be occupying the similar niche, and they would handle colder climates better. They were almost white, so they were around in the 1800s, barely, but that's when they started, like that's when they went extinct due to overhunting. So this always kind of makes me think of.
I had a nickel for every time someone said that.
Oh, it happens a lot. We like eating things, especially if they're slow and they don't like to fight back.
Those darn Japanese whalers.
Yeah.
That's a sound clip for my soundboard now. But no, so I always kind of lean towards that it is maybe manatee-like. So like you're saying, it has this rough exterior, and most people don't realize manatees aren't soft. Like they're more like hippos. You know, they got really thick skin and stuff like that. I mean, it's an animal literally I've watched come up and suck on an alligator. So they get bit every once in a while. I mean, they get hit by boats and stuff like that, and they're relatively fine if it's not like on their spine or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of lean towards. But it's not. This is one of the river monsters, I believe, 100%, because it's still seen to this day pretty commonly.
Yep.
It's got a sighting about every other month. In Nessie, Loch Ness, people, or thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, go every year to look for the monster. Gets seen about once a month. This place where some people go to look, most people don't, gets seen about every other month.
And we went down there, and I have a bone to pick with Darien now, because they don't have they have one statue and one like visitor center. They don't have a single anything for sale anywhere. No shirts, no snow globes.
They don't adhere to it at all. They're wasting a great opportunity.
Like my thing with that is, why wouldn't they want to be like Point Pleasant? They're not going to lose anyone. They're going to gain more people. They may lose 2 or 3 people that are like, that's just stupid. Why would anyone want to go there? But they're going to gain hundreds of thousands, if not cryptid chasers. They go down there, like make like an alti boat tour, you know, like
literally. Champ has one. Cassie has one. So like that's my big bone with Loveland, Ohio. I think because Loveland's a really richy area, and I think they think it's beneath them. And like literally, we had to have the Loveland Frogman Festival in the next town over.
Ain't that ridiculous?
And that's just crazy.
It's I would agree to you. I don't know why it's like Folk, Arkansas. And here's a shout out. Here's a free promotion. If you're ever in Folk, Arkansas, which is a town of 210 people, stop, enjoy it, because they have Bigfoot barbecue. They have the Bigfoot Museum. They have the Bigfoot gas station. They put a metal Bigfoot.
Creek.
Yeah, they put a little metal Bigfoot everywhere the Bigfoot was seen for those 8 days. Like they make it easy. Flatwoods does it too, but they put the big chairs out for Braxy, wherever she was seen, so you can go and it's fun to do this. You know, it's even if you're not really into this stuff like we are, you know, for a couple hours on your family vacation, it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, like go. Why not go see where the freaking goblins landed? You know, there's.
I would be there. I can beat a goblin up.
It's like
I think I can.
It's like the Dover Demon. You just kick it and it just dies.
Turns it to dust.
Or a squonk. All you do is catch him. Bless his heart.
You look at him a little hard, he just turns to a puddle.
That is the epitome of a depression session. Poor thing.
Man.
Who you got next?
So this one, I feel sad that Jay couldn't be a part of this one because this one is the Georgia Giants.
He may be watching.
Ooh,
Jay.
Hope you're watching, Jay. So to this day, no living Georgia Giant has been seen in the Okefenokee Swamp area of Georgia, but dozens of skeletons have been unveiled, leaving the question of where they came from unanswered. Most of the skeletons have been discovered inside strangely shaped mounds, with the first being found in the 1920s. The remains were said to be larger than their jawbones alone could foreshadow, be so large that their jawbones alone could foreshadow a human head. And what I think is interesting with that is that it says they were said to be so large, which means that those seem like they were covered up too, because no one has access to them anymore, and it's hearsay.
Yeah. Keep finding them, but then you say
they were
supposedly, so it's like they disappeared immediately upon finding them because things, they're probably in the Smithsonian.
Billy Bones swooped in.
Bones.
But the Okefenokee Swamp, we've got size on some of these other slides, but it is a huge area. And of course, the naysayers call these mounds alligator beds. Because that's where they raise their gators. They build up mounds, which they do.
But it's more like a swan's nest.
Yes. It's not dirt packed in like it's a burial. But Georgia's had native civilizations for thousands and thousands of years. And like the last comment I saw there, we have some really awesome mounds that are national parks and state parks that are Native American burial grounds. But I feel like there's a lot of other
burials in there
that weren't the kings and the queens and, things like that. And they're not as massive, and it just looks like earthworks these days. It's been so long.
These chairs give it a fits.
We live about 35 minutes from Rock Eagle, which is where the Native Americans stacked up rocks in a formation that's probably about 75 feet long and probably 50 or 60 feet wide, but it is in the shape of a bird. And they've got a tower there when you look, and they feel like that's either a burial mound or a ceremonial mound. So we've got a lot of really old native culture here in Georgia. from the because they were following those river systems. You know, the Creek Indians were up and down the Ocmulgee and Oconee river systems.
Speaking of that, tell them about the pottery we found.
Yeah, we found just playing around in the creek looking for arrowheads and things, and Austin found a piece of pottery that's probably, I think the lady said 11 to 1200 years old.
Wow.
But it was a piece of pottery that it was
made
used
by
a cob of corn to make the decoration on it.
That's awesome.
So
pottery of the corn.
Pottery of the corn. I'll have to get a picture of that. I got you. Well, I don't want to ruin it. I have a picture you gave me for the new studio, and it comes up later. But for everybody at home to understand, the Okefenokee Swamp literally had a plane crash in it, and those people weren't found for weeks, and most of them starved to death or got eaten.
Yep.
And this is in Georgia. Like it sounds like it's in the Amazon. Yep. Like when you read that, if you read that story, like we did it on the Patreon episode, when you read it and you don't say the location, it sounds like a plane crashed in somewhere in the Amazon, and all these people starved to death and got eaten by crocodiles.
And like it's crazy because it's so wild out there. Like we were in the touristy part of it, and there was like snakes on the walkway and stuff. You know, there were birds that would like sitting on the freaking branches right by the trails and stuff.
So just if you got off of their tourist trail,
There's no telling what
it gets wild in a hurry.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me.
Anything that can swallow a plane, I'm good with.
Yeah.
It might as well be the Bermuda Triangle.
And the Okefenokee was also the last place where there was a Native American attack on homesteaders in Georgia. And that was a lot the same thing is, you know, there was nobody for help. You know, you were homesteading out there and you were on your own. You know?
That's a hell of a place to homestead, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think it's like 6,500 acres, like 700 square miles of swamp. I mean, that's immense. You know, it's not the Everglades, but it's not small either. You know.
Yeah, I mean the Everglades is the whole south end of Florida, but
giant. You know.
I mean, we had to put sand there to make roads. But no, it's a swamp that literally will eat a plane and make everybody disappear with it, while there was thousands of people looking for them.
Yep.
So everybody at home, it's crazy. Thousands of people were looking for a plane that went down that was on fire for like 3 days, and they couldn't find it. So who you got next?
Tell them about the skunk apes.
Well, why don't you talk to them, Austin?
Yeah. Hey, okay. So
tell them about the skunk ape in Florida.
Okay, so the skunk ape, aka Bigfoot, has quite a few sightings in Georgia. One of the earliest Georgia Bigfoot sightings happened around 20 years ago by a 51-year-old man in the Chattahoochee, and this is again one of the earliest documented sightings. So,
right.
In the Chattahoochee National Forest, he claimed the cryptid stood about 8 to 9 feet tall and was moving at a quick pace behind the brush. There's even a museum dedicated to the Sasquatch in North Georgia. We've been there a couple of times. It's nice.
It's called Expedition Bigfoot. It's a great place.
If you're ever in Blue Ridge and you care any smidgen about this place, you definitely should stop there. It's really cool. It's like it's got all kinds of stuff. It's usually got like a documentary playing. It's got like a thing talking about the Ape Canyon incident. It's got maps of where sightings have been in Georgia and like Alabama and Tennessee, I want to say. But yeah, so like it's really cool.
Has several authentic casts.
A bunch of casts, a bunch of like life size like figures and stuff. It's got a bunch of like books. I want to say it had like a signed picture of like Lyle Blackburn and stuff. Just a bunch of really cool stuff. And
it's an awesome museum. So Ralph, from the Patreon, has been there several times, and it's got a Bigfoot cast that I need. It's the Bigfoot butt print.
Yeah, I remember that one. That's a good. It's hard to forget a butt that's bigger than your whole body.
He was thick.
He was thick. He was thick.
Okay, that was lovely, but so sorry, I got to get back on track.
That's okay.
But We were on vacation in Daytona Beach.
Yeah.
This was 2 years ago.
All right, I'm back on track. We were on vacation in Daytona Beach 2 years ago.
Okay.
It was like last year.
We were in Florida on vacation.
Ignore
2
our
years
bickering.
ago.
It's okay. Was it really?
Just
Sorry.
go,
Sorry.
go.
Okay. So we go down there to visit his old friend from like their whole childhood that moved down there, and we'll usually like stay with him for a day or two. But like, so we were staying with him, and he started talking about a place that he goes fishing sometimes, and he said that they'd been telling him stories about sightings of like the skunk apes down there. So we're like, that's great. Tell us where it is, please. We need to investigate. So we go out probably about 11 to 12, somewhere around there.
It was
11 or
almost
12.
midnight.
I want to say we left at 12:30, and we were there for about an hour, so about 11:30. So we get down there, and like if you go to our Facebook page and scroll like all the way to the bottom, it was one of our first ones. It shows like the area. We like put a picture of where it was and like put the whole full story. But like we get out there and we're driving around. We saw a barred owl. That was nice. So like
Or a Mothman.
yeah, we saw a Mothman just casually chilling out there. It was on his vacation. So then we were riding around, and I get out, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna hit this like old power line pole, because like there were no wires attached to it. It was like old, probably abandoned, you know. Well, I mean, obviously,
It looked like something that may have been down there for telegraphs. I mean,
Yeah,
it was like
it
a
was,
10-foot
Oh wow!
phone pole. I mean, it was really small, and
like because we were trying to find a place to knock on a tree, and we couldn't find any that weren't like having to step in 10 feet of swamp. So we get to this power pole. All right, power line, telephone pole. That's what I'm looking for. So I hit on it 3 times, and like within like we're not hearing much. So I hit on it again, and like almost instantly we hear like a like something got really mad that we were there. It yelled at the and like you talk about with the skunk apes, they get so ticked off if humans are anywhere near them. Like they'll throw alligators at you.
he sounded.
It happened.
It sounded like a mix between a man yelling at the top of his lungs and like a mountain lion screaming.
It was just it was an odd
really
sound, and it was, I would say, 200 or 300 yards away, off in like an oak hammock.
Yeah, that was
but
probably
it was
one
just
of the best vocals we've heard. But
it was just immediate and angry sounding.
It sounded so mad,
and it caused a coyote to howl in an opposite direction, but the coyote only howled once.
Yeah,
like he was like, okay,
he's like, leave me out of this. I'm not a part of him.
But I'm over here. I didn't do that, you know. But it was one of those things. It was another thing that seemed way too loud for how far away it sounded. Which is kind of a weird process. But if you're ever in the woods, you understand that theory. Like an owl, like a barred owl, he sounds like he's 400 yards away, but it's still super loud, you know. So it was an odd, and of course the woods went silent.
It was like,
I mean, and there was no sound. Like South Florida in the summertime, so it was loud.
It doesn't shut up,
and it just went silent.
And like there have been a couple of times here in Georgia where we've been out, and like I don't know, I feel like they could have some kind of thing. I don't know, because like I don't know, but like there have been a couple of times where I've heard something and he can't hear it. Like I've heard something walking, and I swear there's something just barely over there, and he's like, "There's nothing there. You're crazy." I'm like, "No, there is something stepping there, and it sounds big." And he's like.
And you know, I'll be closer to what he's talking about than he is, but he can hear stepping, and I can't hear it at all.
Well, that happens, you know. With Emily's done it to me before, where she plays a sound she can hear, and I can't.
Yeah, there's certain frequencies that just some people just can't hear, and other people can. So I guess they could have some kind of something like that, to where like just only if you have like a certain perception or something is when you can hear it.
Well, even just being younger does that.
Yep.
You know, Emily's 4 years younger than me, and she can hear all these sounds that I cannot. And half the time I'll call her crazy because I'm like, there's no noise.
That's not noise.
But she really is hearing something, and I think that's what it falls back on. And I don't know. Skunk apes to me. So I'll ask you guys: is skunk ape the same thing as Bigfoot?
I don't think so. I think they're more like what the people that see a lot call the orangutan. What
Orang pendek, from like India.
I think they're more that type of creature. I think they're more of an orangutan type creature than a ape type
like
creature.
That one famous picture everyone always talks about. And there's some problems with that as always, but like it looks like
McKinley photo,
like the one that where it's like
he's in the palmettos or whatever.
Thing, you know?
I think it's a McKinley photo.
Yeah,
that sounds about right. But like, and you know, they said like an orangutan escaped from the zoo that week
or something. Yeah,
you know, like there's always something, but like, and it and the problem with like the scale for that is those. When we go to Florida, we see homes that are like this big. That
they can be 2 foot tall, or they can be 20 foot tall.
Right.
For real. So like, it's hard to scale it, but like, so you don't know if it's the same size as an orangutan or smaller or like 3 feet bigger.
9 foot tall. You know, you don't know.
But I know that Florida and extreme South Georgia is a lot less fertile ground. So I know a white-tailed deer down there is 75 to 90 pounds. And they're small and short, and it's just from where they're at. So I feel like all big game animals would be the same thing. I feel like it would be a shorter, stockier built animal, even if it's the same. If it's the same species, I feel like they would look a lot different, like the white-tailed deer do. Like the key deer are 50 pounds. You know?
They look dogs. People pick them up.
So, you know, I feel like if it is the same species, it's still done a lot of changing just for the area that it's at.
And I don't know. I think that like the different Sasquatch type thing, like Yeti, Yowie, Orang Pendek, I'm trying to think of some other ones, skunk ape, grassman, all those. I feel like they could be like something like a gray fox and a red fox, where it's like they have one common ancestor, could be like the Gigantopithecus or something like that, and they're all just like offshoot type things of that one common ancestor.
I get that. They speciated off, and I'm a believer that the skunk ape are, you know, they're seen, in my opinion, in Florida, Louisiana, southern Georgia, a little bit of Arkansas. Most of Arkansas has normal, what I would call normal Bigfoot. Right. But, you know, some of Arkansas has more skunk ape-like stuff, and a little bit of Texas. I think there's something different than our classic Bigfoot. All from attitude, size, stuff like that. And like Ricky said, you know, it could be this almost a phenotypical difference to where there's no food or not as much food, so you stay smaller. That makes sense. Yep. Like you're saying, the deer, you know, Ohio has 250-pound deer, right? 300-pound deer, because everything is corn. Yeah, deer and
everything is corn.
And like 80% of the state.
And like, you know, even if it is just the same thing, like back to that type of thought, you know, like I feel like just in comparison, Florida and like the states like that could have less forest type stuff than Oregon, you know? And like with the Miller documents talking about how they had like slight differences depending on where he got them from, you know? I don't know. They could be different. They could be the same. They could be similar, but I don't know.
I like when Jay agrees with us, man.
Yeah, there you go. I kind of go with the thing that they may be like billabong apes and stuff like that. These apes that these ship captains had that they abandoned. Most ships that were coming to Florida had apes chained up for entertainment. And a lot of times they'd get rid of them when they got here, and because they just don't want to deal with them no more. And they, like, you know,
that's a classic Florida thing to do.
Yes, classic Florida. Get a cool pet and just turn it loose.
So literally, so bonobo chimps were relatively recently discovered, like 2010, 11, something. I don't remember. but relatively recently discovered for a great ape. But ship captains had them, and they would describe them as silverback chimpanzees.
Okay.
And this was 1800s. And everybody didn't understand what they kept writing down because they had gorillas and they had chimps on these ships. Every once in a while, they'd write Captain X had a silverback chimpanzee. And what the ship captains kind of assumed is they were a hybrid, and they can't hybridize. And eventually we found out they were bonobos. And every once in a while, a ship captain would get this chimpanzee that was massive, 300-pound chimpanzee. And I kind of lean towards, personally, that the skunk ape specifically is something like that. There's a small a small population from the 1700s, and bonobos are so secretive that we literally just discovered them in the last couple decades in an area where there are people looking for primates constantly. I mean, there's gorillas there. They fight gorillas and they fight chimpanzees, and we didn't find them until recently. So I kind of think that there may be, for the skunk ape specifically, that some of it is an actual Sasquatch being seen, and some of it is these guys. Because when you find them, they're not happy you found them.
Right.
Not a fan.
And something in nature wants to hide, it can hide.
100%. And people don't realize that if an animal wants to not be found. So I have a friend that's a big cat researcher, and I've shared this before. She tagged a mountain lion, had a collar, radio transmitting collar. And she never found the cat again. And she'd get 30 feet, 40 feet away from it, and then disappear. And then she just never could get another shot at that cat to get the collar off till the battery died.
Wow.
So you have a cat that has a collar that's transmitting a radio signal, and you can get really close to it, and you cannot find it. So let alone something, primates are a little smarter than cats. Cats are pretty intelligent, but primates are that next step up. And especially when the ancestors were on a ship being poked and prodded for entertainment, they learn that people are not good.
So they get away.
Yeah.
Yep.
When they get away, they get away. And bonobos can swim. That's rare for great apes.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's awesome. You ready for the next slide?
Move on to the next slide. See where we're at. That's just a quick rundown of how much woodland and thick woodland we have here in Georgia. The Chattahoochee National Forest gets most of the attention because that's the mountainous areas. That's the southern terminus of the Appalachians, so that's a lot more of the terrain that people usually go for and look for. So there's more people looking for Bigfoots up in there than there are here. But the Oconee National Forest is here in central Georgia, and it's got a lot of area that's untouched as well. And that's where we stay. A lot of times we'll ride probably 5-6 nights a week out on the dirt roads into the Oconee National Forest, checking the swamps out, checking the dirt roads out, looking for things. And that's how we come across our first track. And then again, there's the size of the Okefenokee Swamp. It was, 438,000 acres, just massive.
Monstrous.
And this Bond Swamp, 6,500 acres, that's on the outskirts of Macon, Georgia. That was the capital city at one time before Atlanta. And so you've got a 6,500 acre swamp right up against a city. And then you've got the Ocmulgee River running through it. It's just a travel corridor that nobody can access at all by boat or by foot because it's too swampy. Of course, it has some high ground, but how do you get to that high ground? So, it's and going to have a map here on another couple of frames over, but it shows the several major river system corridors that go from top to bottom of the state. And like it says, makes perfect travel corridors and perfect habitat for any kind of big creature to go unnoticed and thrive. They can be all around you, but still have so much privacy that you'll never know it.
100%.
So, click.
Sorry, I haven't figured out how to get it for you guys to click yet.
That's okay. But yeah, the thing on the right there shows the 2 national forests. And like I say, that one up north is where the Appalachian Trail starts. And it's just the Cohutta Wilderness area is right in the middle of that. And it don't have any roads. It don't have any trails. It has nothing. It's just totally designated to leave alone. You can hike in there, but they ain't hiking trails, that type of thing. And but the river systems maps, you see 3 of the major rivers go straight up from the coast all the way up through the state. And the circles that I have put on the map myself, the one at the top is circling the Chattahoochee National Forest, which is where most of your sightings that are known occur. I think these chairs are killing me, but I think that the Bigfoot researchers, one of their first shows was in North Georgia,
Finding Bigfoot.
And those guys, Bobo and Cliff and all those guys, they were up there near Cleveland, Georgia, and that's where they had one of their first episodes way back when. And that's that Chattahoochee National Forest in the center of the top of Georgia. But the next circle down is an area, it's got the Chattahoochee River, which is a major river that goes down through the south, northeast, to the southwest. But there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings over in that area. That's also the area from where that raptor is sighted. That's over in that area of the state as well. But the center circle there is the Oconee National Forest, and our area, it's the Lake Country is what it's called. It's Piedmont type habitat. So it's rolling hills, not really steep, but got some, hills and valleys, a lot of hardwood mast crops, and still mixed with a lot of agriculture on the land that is developed, this agriculture land. So it's a lot of feed for any type of wildlife. And the little circle that kind of intersects it there, that's Bond Swamp. That's the area, that's the 6,500 acre swamp. And the kind of weird looking shape there on the right, that's the Altamaha River. That's where Alty's at, down off the coast there. And that goes all the way up. As you can see, the rivers just split off, the 3 rivers, but the Altamaha River itself is what I have circled, because that's after the 3 have joined together. So that's the biggest amount of water. And the circle on the bottom left of the state, that's Lake Seminole. That's where the stump jumper resides. That's where a lot of the sightings of the stump jumper are at.
That's where the stump jumper
It's where
resides.
Georgia and Florida intersect down there, in the corner of Alabama as well.
Like the Georgia-Florida line.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
I should have the music playing, yeah. But in the other circle there is the Okefenokee Swamp, where it's at. But those, you see, it's pretty well all across the state except for the extreme eastern part of the state. You don't hear much down the Savannah River corridor. I'm not sure why that is.
Savannah's too paranormal to care about Bigfoot.
Well, I would say that's getting over in lizard man territory.
Yeah. Bigfoot avoids other cryptids sometimes.
So, I feel like that may be part of the problem there, because that whole East Coast, you don't see or hear much of the Bigfoot, but that's getting over toward the lizard man. So
100%.
So that's what that's about. So now we
Ready
can
for the
click
next
on.
one? There we go.
And
Now here's
the
what I'm most excited for. So walk us through this night, because after you walk us through, I have a story to share of what happened that night, because it was probably just as exciting for me as it was for you guys.
we were so hyped.
So let me walk you through it. And I
Please do.
over-explain everything. Just ask any of my family members or friends. I will add like so many unnecessary details. I'll be like, and the sun was about like here in the sky, you know? So
Can't do that here. It's all good stuff.
So I was outside with my younger sister and we're just like goofing off, messing around. And then he texts me that picture and he's like, "You're not gonna believe this." And I'm like, "What the heck?" So
I don't see what you're pointing at.
Oh my!
The second picture.
Well, the one that's the foot in the ground. That one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So he texts me that and he's like, that's you're not gonna believe this. So he comes and gets me and we like go down to where it's at. And so we start like pouring it down like it was still like it was like the sun was setting when we got there. So we start pouring like the cast, all right. And then we're like walking around trying to like look for anything else. We see there were a good bit of other half footprints where you could see there was something there, but like not make it out good enough to cast it. Then we noticed the tree broken on the other side of like the road there. And so I went over to that and I was looking at it and I see that's twisted because like we got the flashlights and whatnot. So I tell him to go stand by it, pull a Bobo and go stand by it. And he goes and stands with his hand above his head like that. And it was taller than he could reach. Like the break there was just like about probably this much higher than his hand.
And I'm 6'2", so my reaching up is probably over 8 foot or right around 8 foot.
And the break was
about 3-4 inches above where I could reach.
It's crazy.
So I would say 8.5, 9 foot off the ground. I wish he'd have took a picture of me standing there. But
I did.
You guys sent me another picture, and you could see that I think one of you were reaching up for it.
Okay, so
I just forgot.
There is a picture that exists that shows the exact size of that because it is massive. And then for the ability to actually break, because you guys don't have snow breaks down there.
No.
Here in Ohio, that's what I would first go to is snow break because that happens a lot. Right. These little trees get a lot of snow buildup, but you can it almost looks like it's twisted like that. It's amazing.
And it seems like the tree was about this big along.
I would say about 4.5, 5 inches in circumference. So it's a nice size tree.
It's a nice size small trees.
And you notice the other trees are about the same size around it. The 2 or 3 right straight behind it are about the same size. Nothing's wrong with them.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely. Yeah, it's awesome. Sorry, continue. I love this.
So that was, and then we rode around waiting for the cast to dry, listening to some Cryptids of the Corn, as you do.
Good plug.
Here's the cast.
Look at there.
Look at that thing.
Put it in close and see the toe detail and stuff like that.
I was gonna say, when am I getting my copy?
As soon as we can make one.
I mean, we can actually see the details in the toes there.
So can you guys see any toenails?
I don't think so, but some up here looks like it could possibly be. I'm going to try to get in there. Where's the thing?
It's right here.
But it looks like maybe around in here on this one might have some nails. And
when we go up, we got to show you. We got to get you a copy of it.
I want to show you this.
Oh, I need it. I physically need it.
See, this angle of it shows how this part is so different than the heel and the ball of the foot.
Broken in the middle.
And it's still got like sand like attached to it. So it's amazing to think the fact that like you're touching where this thing has stepped,
100%. And so will you tell them the measurements of this track? And we'll both go into why this is so important.
Yeah, it's it was about it's a little over 11 3/4 inches length, but it's over 5.5 inches wide. And that's the thing. The width of it's what really caught me off guard, other than the shape of what was impressive and what wasn't. I mean, it's not a massive foot. I'd love for it to be an 18-incher, But hey, that's just like fishing. You know, you can't
Right.
catch the 18.
Yeah.
They can all be Goliath.
But it was a very wide and a very heavy track.
So for people at home that may not know, that human tracks are almost always 1/3. What that means is they're almost always 1/3 as wide as they are long. And that's for every human on this planet. There are very, very few exceptions to this rule. Sasquatch tracks, or what we believe to be mostly real Sasquatch tracks, are almost always half what they are as long. So it's a completely different ratio that we see with these Sasquatch tracks versus human tracks. And if you look at this, it looks, I mean, I know it's real personally, but for everybody at home, or, you know, as this video gets passed around and stuff like that, that may or may have questions.
You darn skeptics.
It happens, and it's good to be skeptical, but this is real. This fits the right measurements. I was sitting in this room, and I think both Austin and Ricky were texting me at the same time, saying that they found this, and I was just like, this is amazing. And I was getting pictures like as they walked up to it, as they went and cast it, as they found these tree breaks and stuff like that. So where was this area in compared? So explain that again, Ricky. You were somewhere and found this.
Yes, I was. Yeah, we were driving up a old dirt road that I would say the closest house is about 3.5 to 4 miles away. And I go to this place and I check the sandbars of this creek because I like to stop at all the creeks and look up and down the sandbar. So I was walking up and down one of the areas and I saw this track, and it looked like I said, I saw the one full track and then a couple of partial tracks, but it looked like it was trying to walk up a creek and then it just stepped out onto the bank with 1 foot to try to maybe pick something up or saw something. But then the other track was a half a track going back into the creek. And then the creek was washing tracks away, of course. So it looked like it was walking up a creek, but it stepped out enough to get that one full track and then a couple of partial tracks.
Poor thing was up a creek.
He was up a creek.
Well,
but it was February.
I think that's how they travel.
Yep, it was February.
Yeah.
And it was like 26 to 29 degrees. So for Georgia, that's pretty doggone
for us
cold.
Georgians, it's
cold.
Right.
I don't think none of the rednecks down here, even that country, that they'll run around in 20-degree weather walking up the creeks.
Yeah, that's more of a Florida thing to do, is to go everywhere barefoot.
Excuse me.
All good. Ricky's just getting over being sick, so we appreciate him being here. But yeah, so that's very cold. I mean, 20 degrees, you know, I was joking earlier when I said, 20 degrees is nothing up here. No, 20 degrees is still cold, no matter what state you're in. But to be walking around in the bottom of a creek barefoot and being this big, I mean, 11.5 inch or almost 12 inches long is a full-grown human male, regardless.
Right.
And walking through a creek makes no sense if you're barefoot. And we have a pretty substantial homeless population in our forest up here. And I can tell you what they're not going to do in 20-degree weather is walk through the middle of a creek. It just doesn't. Yeah, Ronnie, t-shirt weather. They're from New England.
T-shirt weather.
It is to them, but Georgia, it's not.
We're freezing to death at 40s.
Yeah, that's my second favorite picture of Austin. First one with me and Jay.
He was so excited. You have no idea.
I would be. I was so excited for him. Because that is getting a cast of that level alone. I know people that I know Caps and stuff like that, and they're great people, and they don't have a cast that good. And they do this every day, Northern Michigan, 24/7 for 10 years, and they don't have one that good. And they do really heavy research, and they get out there, and they're pretty much out there every day. and I own one of their better casts, or at least replica. And it's still a great cast. Don't get me wrong, but that is a pristine cast. That's a once in a lifetime for a Bigfoot researcher. And we're talking about like people that go out every day and get this. So this is just amazing to me.
Well, it has sold us out. I mean, we're loving it. That was such a highlight. I mean, it really, really was.
Sorry, I broke up. If you get a better one, you'd have to find a Bigfoot in it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, the animal has to be standing there. But so for the tree breaks, it's hard to tell from this picture, but the one picture you sent me, you can almost see that it's twisted.
Right.
Which is very, very important for this distinguishing between a natural break and a thing-made break, where especially with Sasquatch, it almost seems that they twist these off to drop them on purpose. Yeah. And like Justin Lamb said earlier, marking their territory. I think it may be something like that. But what do you guys think for this?
Well, I feel like there's a trail right under that tree. I feel like that is one of its major travel areas, because that's about, I'd say, 10 yards, 15 yards from the main creek. So I feel like it walks up that side creek and then crosses there and goes up into a thicker area. But I feel like that's marking a trail is what it seems like to me.
It could just be a portal opening to Dimension X.
Yeah, I didn't walk through the V, because no telling what would have happened.
Don't walk through the V. It's not worth it. You got grandbabies.
Said, where'd you go?
Yeah, I heard a door slam. Don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But no, I what do you think, Austin?
I don't know. I feel like it's probably just some kind of territory marker of some sort,
How soon after do you think you were behind this thing when you found these?
It had rained like a day or two before.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I mean, I feel like, gosh, I want to say hours at most.
It's like
because it was so crisp,
Personally, I think it may have been a little closer. Because I've talking to some of the BFRO investigators and stuff like that. That mountain lions, for example, they leave, if some starts following, they actually leave extra kills behind because they don't want nothing following them. And I kind of get these same feelings off of these things that you guys may have been right behind it, essentially. Maybe not very behind it, but behind enough where it didn't want you to follow it anymore. Along the path, it starts breaking these trees and stuff like that to say, "Hey, stop it! Stop following me."
And like the tree break, it looked like it had like indentations like under it, like
something that stood there,
there, but like not enough to make out anything,
And I mean, they're called the Watchers for a reason. They'll stand there and they'll watch you. But real quick, if you guys are good,
yep.
Goose Girl asked, "Hey, just joined. Does it have 6 toes?"
I feel like we counted before, but
no, it is 5 toes. I don't know where he went.
Sorry,
but yeah, the part on the side over here is where on the right hand side by the big toe looks like where the big toe might have moved as it was stepping.
Yeah, I see what she's asking, and I can see what you're talking about, to where it looks like it may have like slid inside the track itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I get both. And then Justin Lamb's asking, have you two seen the X marks? So do you know what he's asking by that?
Like the cross pattern trees. Yeah. I feel like we saw one like
we've seen some things on the forestry land that we really can't explain. Because of course you first of all just want to say wind damage, but we've seen things that I feel like were placed together, but not enough to where I really am 100% sold on it.
Right. And that's kind of that's the better way to be about it, in my opinion.
Right.
To where if I can say that probably isn't Bigfoot, that's safer to say than, that's my biggest pet peeve is
right.
that,
I don't want everything to be Bigfoot. I can't go there.
It doesn't happen. We'd have one in a cage.
Yep.
If everything you went in the woods and seen was Bigfoot, we'd have one. I mean, but so that's the safer way to be. But we had Rick Rellis on a couple months ago, and he explained that like some of these X structures are literally teetering. Like that's more of the stuff I would buy for these X structures and the stuff like that. When you see these things that are literally, they're either people or they're Bigfoot. It's one of those two options. It's not naturally occurring.
Like when you see the rock stacks out in the woods, you want to know whether it is, people on hikes or something else, because I believe that the Bigfoots do stack rocks just like they do make the X's and things like that. But a lot of it's gotten to where it's a cool thing for all the hikers to do as well. So you have to really try to see where you're at with that.
Yeah, if you're in a parking lot, if you're 100 yards from a parking lot, it's not a Bigfoot.
Exactly.
I'm going to be real frank, because every kid has stacked rocks.
Yep. So.
And before we move on to the next slide, I have to use the bathroom. I'm so sorry, guys. I've been drinking. I got off work and I started drinking, and I shouldn't have. So will you entertain these fine people for a minute?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, ask questions. I'll be back.
Questions now. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
So anyway, no questions. So we'll just continue on a little bit. But I kind of touched base on it a few minutes ago, but we try to go out several nights a week, and we ride all of the Forest Service roads around the Oconee National Forest when we're around home. And when we go on vacations, we try to find some out of the way places and try to do as much driving through the early night hours and on into, the early morning hours. We'll take different times. And we've had several situations where we've had what we feel like was some sounds, maybe walking sounds or knocks or some howling. But a lot of times you'll just be out there and things will just go quiet. And everybody knows that if the woods go quiet, something's wrong. So that's what we try to do. That's most of our investigations are just places that we pick and me and him go and ride. But we'd love for other people to invite us along, because we'd love to come investigate where you think you've seen or heard things. Shameless plug.
No, good. Do it. How can they get a hold of you before we move on?
Facebook page, just put up a message, like Messenger.
Yeah, Facebook Messenger off our Cryptid Investigation Association Facebook page is the easiest way to get in touch with us. And I've got a lady in Florida that's wanting us to come down and take a look around. She thinks she's seen Dogman. She's seen several different things that she can't explain, and she wants us to come down and spend some time in that area. She's a truck driver, so she travels the same roads almost nightly, and she's had several situations happen in the same small area. So she's wanting us to come down and take a look at that. So I'm trying to get a time where we can go and really spend a couple of nights down there, hopefully see some of the stuff that she has seen, or at the very least get more information, more detailed story of what she has seen. And so, and then of course we still got the upcoming stump jumper. We're trying to get back involved in that. So
Here you guys go.
where's your ranch at, Goose Girl?
Love geese, by the way.
Love geese too.
Because I don't mind people thinking I'm crazy. We'll get out there and prove them wrong.
We've
Or
all
try
been
to.
called crazy in this group. Don't do the Dogman one though.
What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he loves the dog man, don't he? You want to come with us?
Hell no. I don't drink that much. I don't know what you think of me, but
We'll tell him where you live. Tell him where to find a good snack.
that's fine. He ain't coming to town. Yeah, looking for the Dogman. That's how you become Christmas ornaments. So
Excuse me.
Goose Girl responded to you.
Texas Hill Country. That's beautiful country. I would love to get more information and seriously come out and plan a time to come see you, because we love to travel. We love road trips, and we like to spend our road trips hunting for Bigfoot or any of the cryptids. So we would love to come see you.
Our Facebook page is Cryptid Investigation Association. Look us up.
Keep plugging it.
We reached
here,
our
Joe.
100th member earlier this week, so we're excited about that.
Tell you what, I'm going to sponsor your 200th member giveaway.
Bring it on, man. Love it.
I'll send you a package to give away for when you guys are getting close to 200.
Perfect.
Because it won't be that long. Here's Justin for some lies.
This is a good boy.
See, that is exactly why I can't take my daughter with us on these, because she thinks everything's just wanting to be scratched behind the ears.
This is a baby.
Okay, I got a story for you before we move on. I seen a mountain lion at our cabin in Michigan a couple years back. We were all drunk frying chicken in this cabin that had no insulation, so we're all about to freeze to death. First year we built our cabin. No insulation. It's like right around -8 outside. So it's horrid. And that is, once again, there's a minus sign in front of that number.
You keep talking like that, I'm going to have to put a jacket on.
Yeah. So we're freezing to death. So we get how we solve that problem is you get drunk enough where you can sleep.
Yeah.
And you don't care really what the temperature is outside. So but we didn't want to open the door because this didn't have plumbing yet that was winterproof. So we had to pee outside. But we'd all wait and we all go pee together and stuff like that. We all had our own pee spot because we literally were running electric heaters, but you can only run X amount of electric heaters because you're going to kick the breaker. And the breaker is 100 foot away outside. So it was this whole game. We were there for a week and a half. We go out and we see this mountain lion staring at us. We run back inside and it's a mountain lion. Anyways, fast forward. My brother's girlfriend, soon to be, I'm going to assume his fiance, sees the same mountain lion at the same cabin and thinks it's a cat. And she's going out trying to pet this thing. And my brother walks out there. And keep in mind, it's like an 80-pound mountain lion, 90-pound mountain lion. It's not like a monster mountain lion, but it's not a house cat. You know, it's the size of the size of our German Shepherd.
He's like,
a good boy.
come on, a little bit closer.
You just need
He was, to be fair to that mountain lion, he kept walking away from her. And she's following him into the woods. Like, hey, come here.
He's like, what is wrong with this girl?
I know. And yeah, so
he's offended. He says she thinks I'm a house cat.
Goose Girl says, okay, I'll check it out. And Justin says, here, kitty, kitty, kitty.
It's just a little baby out there in the woods all alone. He just needs cuddles.
No, he doesn't.
See? That's exactly what Becca says. She says that all the time. All the time.
Exactly.
If I had a nickel for every time I've heard that, I'd
Why
be a
friend
rich man.
shape? Well,
Yep, that's exactly what Rebecca says about black
bears. You don't
bears.
trust nature. You don't trust nature. It's the cute stuff will kill you. That's how nature works.
Rebecca says, look at those pretty little ears on a black bear. It wouldn't bite you for anything. I'm like, okay.
I know.
Back in the cabin.
Back in the cabin.
I know someone.
You guys ready for the next slide? Oh, sorry.
What?
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was asking if you're ready for the next slide, but you have something to say.
Okay. Well, I know someone that one time, like, they had a bunch of outdoor cats, and they would go out at the same time each day to go feed them. And one day they weren't wearing their glasses, and they go out there to feed the cats, and they would always just like go pet the ones that came up, and she starts petting this one, and it starts hissing at her. She's like, "That's not my cat," and she gets her glasses, and there's a possum out there.
I pick wild possums up.
Yeah, he said, "I'm gonna take the free food, but none of this petting." You know,
he would eventually. It's a possum. Yeah. They'll lie to you. If it means food,
yeah, possums will lie to you, man. You can't trust them or the Blue Jays, man.
You can't trust
the next slide.
You can't.
Yes, next slide.
Yeah,
them titmice. They won't. There he is.
My favorite slide.
There's the boy.
And you guys graciously gave me a picture of this, and it is framed and going up at the new studio.
Yep.
So please explain what we're seeing.
That was another one of our highlights. That was several years back, but of course, my father, the skeptic, says it's just a fox with mange. But
for fuck's sake,
I just don't think the legs and the face are much the shape for it, you know.
And one of the like famous chupacabra pictures of like one of them, it has the stripes like that, and it looks a lot similar. Like, we'll have to, when we go up there, we'll have to like show you the one we're talking about, like compare it. But like, if you've seen it, you might know which one I'm talking about.
Just on a regular Google search of a chupacabra.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that'll always come up. But like, it looks so much similar. But like, I really think this one could be like whatever that is, you know.
And I know chupacabra is mostly a Western story. You know, you don't hear much of it in the East Coast. But I feel like that's another one of those things that, 20 years ago, you didn't hear about armadillos in Georgia either.
We just had an armadillo in Ohio.
See, and I just think things move around. They have to.
100%. So with this story, Pennsylvania had a similar creature in captivity at a dog shelter for weeks. And it broke out of its cage. It crawled up the wall 12 feet and broke out of a little window.
Wow.
So now to say the fox thing, gray foxes are really good climbers, as far as, these things that are kind of canid like. I don't think this is a fox. Like you're saying, the legs are extremely long.
And
it's more like, yeah, you can see it's almost like wool. Where the little bit of hair it's very curly.
Yep.
It's not, to me, nothing of this screams fox, and the skin is black blue when you can actually see where the skin is exposed, and foxes don't have that. So like Strange Rose says, the limbs are pretty gnarly for a fox, and that he's 100% right, Mikey.
Yep.
That these things I think are, so we're talking about the Mexican Texas chupacabra when we're talking about this. It definitely seems like it's the same thing being seen repeatedly. And if you guys see anybody at home that's seen anything with mange, a lot of times there's blisters and skin sores and stuff like that. It's not just losing the hair. Losing the hair is a side effect. So like the one in Texas that you guys are referring to, it's really, really famous, doesn't have a blister on the skin, period. Doesn't have a sore. Looks very natural for being a hairless animal, almost like one of those hairless cats. So what we talk about is the Zolotl dog, which is a Mexican dog. And they are almost 100% hairless. They're also called, there's Mexican crescent dogs, Mexican hairless dogs. And that's an adaptation for being in Mexico, being in Texas.
Right.
Hair is kind of not the thing you really want. You want dark skin and you want really thin hair so you can survive. And that as our area warms up, you move into. I love this picture. So you guys actually took this picture.
Yes, I actually took that picture. My cousin actually harvested that thing because it was roaming around his yard and got to where it was around the yard a couple of different times. So it was kind of freaking him out a little bit. But he said it would walk kind of sideways.
He said it kind of like almost sideways limp type walked down his driveway when he first saw it, when he was like sitting on his porch. So he ran inside and like got his gun in case it came towards him, and it was gone by the time he got back out there. So he sat out there waiting for it, and he said after like a little bit of waiting for it, it came back, and he was like looking at it and it started coming towards him. So that's when he shot it. But like.
Yeah. But he said it always walked with his front legs off-centered, like it was about a third sideways walking towards you. It was just like it was kind of just an odd gait to it. And it was watching you. It'd keep his head towards you, but it's like it was kind of sidewinding towards you. And like it was trying to sneak up, but not sneak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I won't pretend I'm not going that way, but here I go, you know?
And another weird thing is that the canines are exposed.
Yes.
So they're on the outside of the lips versus on the inside of the lips. And most canids today have them tucked inside because they want them protected.
And it's hard to tell from this picture, but that actually looks like the upper canines.
Yeah.
And which is odd. Usually if it's something protruding, it's usually the bottom teeth that come out, like boars and things like that. Usually it's the bottoms, but he looks like it's his upper canines that are protruding around his bottom lip. And his ears, you can't tell really good from this picture, but his ears look really big. It's kind of wide at the base and pretty long for the size of the head.
So with me, if I just take it as me looking at this picture, I guess gray fox could be it, but me and you we've all talked about it off air before. I know it's not a gray fox. How big would you say this thing is?
I would say it was probably 45 pounds or so.
And for everybody
it's very thin, and it don't have a whole lot of muscle mass to it, but it looks very solid. You know what I'm saying?
How tall would you say it is?
I would say it was probably 2 foot tall.
So for a gray fox, that would be massive.
Yes.
I mean, that'd be probably about double the state record here in Ohio, and we have some pretty big gray foxes.
Right.
It's definitely not a red fox. But the big ear is so it would be. So foxes are kind of weird on the canid family tree. They're pretty down the line of being related to both canids and cats.
Right.
They're pretty, and I think chupacabra, at least the Mexican Texas chupacabra, fits both of those kind of descriptions with how it behaves and stuff like this. They're definitely more like what they seem to be more more individuals instead of being packs. But that tooth right there, I mean, this literally looks like the thing caught in Texas several times. I mean, that thing's been killed in Texas like 6 times.
Yeah.
It's been killed, in our Louisiana once. It killed Mexico a handful of times, but they all fit this same profile. And to me, points to much more of a species rather than a genetic disorder or a disease.
And we tried to get the Georgia Department of Natural Resources to come out and get a DNA, and of course, nope, wouldn't take the time.
Yeah, you're lucky they didn't take it from you.
I didn't send them a picture. I just described it a little bit. So,
Just a
lucky you guys didn't take a really long vacation.
The Men in Black coming out.
But yeah, it was a very odd creature. It was a very odd creature. And, of course, hasn't seen anything like that again, prior or since, but that area that he lives in is literally, Conyers is a city. I mean, he lives with one of the biggest wood lots. I think it's 260 acres there of woods, but that's one of the biggest wood lots in the area. So it's just going from small wood lot to small wood lots, how it was surviving to begin with, just in an urban setting.
So what do you guys think the chupacabra is as far as the Mexican chupacabra, this thing?
See, I feel like it's a flesh and blood creature that's, I feel like it's just something that's maybe, I think it's something that science don't want to call a new creature. I think they just want to place it somewhere else because there's not enough of it to really do a study of where they can prove that there's something new out there. Because they don't want to prove nothing new most of the time.
And to that, sorry, I keep talking a lot. But to that, that's the 100% reason why mountain lions don't get documented in these states in the north. Because the DNRs do not have the money to do the surveys and the studies for them. So we literally keep having every year in Ohio, for example, we've had tracks documented by biologists that say, hey, this is a mountain lion. These are people that have been in the field for 30, 40 years.
Yep.
They're some of the best people in the country. Like, yeah, this is a mountain lion track here, and it's just south of Columbus. And I cannot name names, but we've had a DNR officer, or not DNR officer, DNR biologist tell me the only reason we can't look into it is because we can't afford it.
Yep.
Let alone undocumented species.
Now, in Georgia, of course, they say there's none here. There's no cougar, mountain lion, any of that here in Georgia, but yet they have in the regulations that it's illegal to harvest one.
Yeah, it's not like cougars above you and panthers below you.
Yeah, and my dad saw a cougar here probably 7 or 8 years ago now, but saw it for about 3 days. I feel like it was a young male passing through, been run out of its area, but him and he saw it twice, and our neighbor down the street, our next neighbor down the street's about a quarter of a mile away, and she saw it once, and it was close enough into her yard that it run her back in the house. Now, it didn't get aggressive toward her, but it was too close. And Krista saw one up in North Georgia. We were on a morning photo hike going up to the tallest part of Georgia at Brasstown Ball, and it crossed the trail between me and her. I done went past it, and it came in. I never saw it, but I went past, and it come between us on the trail, just trying to get away because it didn't like us being there that early in the morning. And I don't think it ever felt like either one of us saw it because it just kind of slinked across the trail real quick, but I know they're here. And like I say, people that have been in the business for years, if they tell you something they saw, it's what they saw, especially when it's like my dad and he's the skeptic. He sure ain't going to say something if he don't think it's 100%.
And as far as like the black cats being seen, what a lot of people don't realize is jaguars were native all the way up to Ohio.
Yep.
And up until the 1800s. And we finally started getting pictures of them crossing the border in Texas. And so jaguars have about a 1 in every 3 cubs are born jet black.
Yep.
So that's where I 100% believe a lot of our black cats are coming from. It's not pet releases, we're not the UK.
Right.
Those animals would be either disappeared so quick, or one animal sure could you'd never see it again. Especially,
right.
It doesn't matter what state you're in, Georgia, Ohio, Michigan. It has plenty of food. It can survive the cold. It's going to disappear.
Yep.
But the amount of sightings we're having of these cats is too high. I mean, so for example, I guess this is not for example. I think the U.S. last year had more Sasquatch sightings than we did of mountain lions.
We're getting real, man. Getting real.
I mean, that's insane to say that neither animal exists everywhere where we say they exist.
Right.
But it's really it's a financial thing. Cable and Urbana. Actually, Robert from the Facebook page, Mikey, has seen them all through that pathway. He's a truck driver. He's been a truck driver in that area for about 50 years. And he's seen them not constantly, but 1 every 4 or 5 years. He gets to see in that pathway. They're here. I mean, In Georgia, I think you guys have more of these alien black cats than we do, but it may be that they have more areas to hide.
Right. See, I feel like that the Florida Panthers move up this way pretty regular. You know.
You literally have panthers below you and mountain lions above you.
Yeah, I mean, so why wouldn't they be here? You know.
Tennessee's kind of wishy-washy.
And that's the way. If you know, if you got major river systems, the animals are going to travel because they know that the humans can't. You know,
But
so
even in that, it's like a map. You know, they move a little bit. Don't get me wrong, but the river is always heading one way.
Yep. And a male is going to run another male out, no matter what species it is. In nature, there's only one male in a territory. He's going to run the young one out or kill him one.
So for bobcats, that's kind of cool. I'm glad you brought it up. Bobcats, they have a territory about 100 square miles each.
And
but the juvenile male will stay with the mom for 1 year. And then after that period, he will go up to 300 miles in that first year away from his mother's territory. And we think these are biological, basically safety measures to prevent inbreeding.
Right.
So, and we think mountain lions have a further one, 500, 600, 700 miles. So if you know there's mountain lions in Tennessee, there's mountain lions in Idaho, they can be in Ohio, they can be in Georgia.
Yep.
Like that, 1 year. You can go from having none to having a population of them.
Yep. And that's the same thing with the black bears. The black bears are moving constantly, and we've got black bears that are north of us, black bears that are south of us, so why would you ever
why wouldn't
think
they be there?
Don't have them here,
Yeah, you guys got a big black bear fence, apparently.
Yeah, man. So maybe we need to put up a black bear crossing sign so they'll know where to come to.
Okay, so I know we're hitting 2 hours right now, but I was in Chicago, and I cannot name the radio show I was listening to while we were working, and some lady called in complaining about the deer signs, saying that why did they put them up in such a busy area? Why didn't they put them in a more rural area? And the poor interviewer did not know what she was talking about. He's like,
how do you answer that?
And she was like, they should have put the deer cross in a more rural area. He's like, no. They put the signs up where the deer like to cross. And she's like, no. They put the signs up to show the deer where to cross. Like we're going out training all these wild deer.
Yeah.
You cross.
Now you guys got to come up here to cross.
And
that's the people we're dealing with that call us crazy.
Yes, you're not wrong there. Before I wrap up, I didn't give Austin a chance to tell us what he thinks of the chupacabra.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like
you sure are squeaky.
You'll get there.
I have to deal with this.
Eventually, you'll be able to beat him up. It'll be a while, but it will happen.
Just like, take 4 days to get here from Ohio, But like, I feel like it could have been because like, I've heard different people talk about what it could be. Everything from like something that's just like lost to time to a fox with mange to like something that was like some big wolf type creature back in like the Ice Age that's just gotten a lot smaller because of like habitat loss and whatnot. I really think it could just be any kind. I think it's some kind of natural animal of some sort, but like I'm not sure. Like no one knows what kind.
I'm right there with you. It's something like that. There's a lot of dog. I think it may be a wild version or a cousin of some kind. I don't know. Being hairless in the desert is great, but now that we're having less and less winters up north, I think they are expanding their range. So most people don't understand this about coyotes. Is coyotes are only native to about 4 states in the U.S. and they're in all 48 continental U.S. Besides Alaska and Hawaii. And what happened is we killed all the wolves. So they're like, okay, wolves are gone. We can actually move out of the desert. And they did great. And I think that these guys may be following a similar path, it's a little slower, that where the winters are getting less and less, and they're moving northern and northern and northern to apparently Pennsylvania. But to what we talked about earlier, Ohio has armadillos now. Armadillos aren't native, but they will be, because they're following that natural winter line.
Yep.
Strange Road said, like, our winters are non-existent. Yeah, Ohio. So literally, Lewis and Clark said when they got to the Ohio River in Ohio, there were bison standing in it.
Yep.
We haven't had bison in over 150 years.
Yep.
But we're reaching 2 hours. We're over 2 hours, actually. Will you please tell everybody where they can find your stuff, how to contact you for research areas, all that, please?
Stop looking at me. It's
your job.
The Cryptid Investigation Association. You could look us up on Facebook, and then just like message him.
It'll be you soon.
And anybody who is a member or follows us or any of that is welcome to post anything, any of their sightings, any of their questions. It's an open forum. I hope that the people that join us will add their 2 cents worth in, because that's what we're about. We're wanting to do in-person investigations, but we also want to hear the investigations of others and just have a place for us to soundboard off of each other. So if you join us on Cryptid Investigation Association, by all means, be a part. Add on to the post, put your 2 cents worth in.
And I guess I didn't give proper time, but for anybody right now, if you have questions for these guys, put them in. I'll put them on screen and we'll talk about them. Sorry, I should have done that first so they could have been typing them up while we were talking. But no, please get a hold of these guys, because most likely me and Jay are not going to go research anything anytime soon.
They're too busy. They're big talkers now.
Strange Road says, great stuff, fellas. I'll definitely be checking you guys out. Maybe it'll be an interviewee on their show.
Awesome.
Mikey.
Yeah.
You have to come in the studio for that one. You always have a house to stay at for that.
We love road trips.
Mm-hmm. No, we'll give them a minute and answer. But yeah, I do want to thank you guys for coming on. This has been great. Strange Road said they're totally down.
Been a lot of fun.
We'll see. We'll give them just a second more.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Mm-hmm. Just said it's been fun. They've enjoyed it.
We miss you, man. Where you at? Working for a living.
Jay never commented.
Man.
I don't know where he's at. He said he's
where's he at, man?
For real, we miss him.
He's actually working, probably.
You guys do. All right. Let's be real loser those terms. All right. I think that's 4 to the 5. I don't know who the 5th is. Maybe your mom.
Mom's still here. Krista.
Ask a question.
Question, Mom. My mom saw a UFO one time.
Krista, we may need to get you on for the next one. Justin said, yeah. He probably is. He'll probably be late tomorrow for the Cryptids and coffee. Not even bought the coffee. All right, guys. Once again, Cryptid Investigation Association. Check them out on Facebook. If you have an active research area you guys want these guys to come to, please message them. Don't message us because we're not going anywhere.
There she is.
What's her story? Tell Autumn's
I
story,
wonder
man.
which one.
About her UFO.
Okay.
Okay. One more story real quick.
No, that's fine. I ain't got nowhere to be.
So I think I know it. Mom, tell me if I do the wrong one. Have her listen to me. So because she's told me like 2, I think. So there was one where they were like driving in like some city area, like I want to say Gwinnett area, maybe. I'm not exactly sure, but they're driving, all right. And she said she was looking up at this what looks like a plane, and when they went under this like tunnel, she looked back up at it, and it was like a circle shape. And then like it went away. Like she didn't notice it after a bit, but like so that's one of them. And then another one was
Before you do that second one.
Sorry, what?
Before you do that second one, when was this?
This was I want to say last year sometime, maybe the year before. Pretty recently.
Will you describe that one more time for me?
Okay. So she thought she was looking at an airplane. She was like, she probably bored in the car, you know how kids are. So they're going and they go under this tunnel, and she looks up and it looks like a circle. And then like, yeah.
I only say that because we have
my tunnel. He means a bridge.
Like under a bridge.
Right. So my dad's coming on in a couple weeks because he just had that same encounter.
Huh.
That's weird because he saw it was a helicopter over the road. Then when he got over it was like a circle. When he got under it, it was like a circle. And he almost wrecked on the highway looking at it. And he pulled over and everything. Nobody was else. Like, it was weird. I don't know. That's... Sorry. Continue. It was...
That was coincidental. Yeah.
It's odd. So then another one was just like a couple of days ago. Her and my grandmother were like driving somewhere, and they said that they saw smoke coming out of the woods. And when they turned around to see what it was gone. Like there was no smoke anywhere like in that area.
Wow. Just as up in the sky, jelly.
It's just, let's just say they are intelligent. My
Always.
living in the sky.
Always, you know me. That's weird.
So yeah, and
we'll have you guys on. Sorry, go ahead.
You can go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh my gosh, just Dad. So my great aunt, she one time said that she was in the car, and she's seen like a Bigfoot. She's heard like knocking on like walls and stuff. Like she was with her sister, and her sister lives up in the mountains, and she said that one night she heard like something like hit a tree nearby, like up on a hill, and like she heard it a couple of different times through the night. Okay. So my mom just commented and said that same day there were several reports of smoke with no fires. So that's an odd thing. That's interesting. But so she one day like. She was in the passenger seat and she saw like a Bigfoot like in a field and didn't realize that she saw something odd until like she thought about it for a minute. But I'll have to get like a more in-depth story for later. But like
Round
one time
2.
she was in the passenger seat and she looked over and saw this like green thing like coming towards like falling, looked like a shooting star. And when it got just above the tree line, it like froze and started like dripping and like dripped to the ground. And she said like she screamed and like they pulled over.
The light was dripping?
Yeah, like it looked like something falling. It looked like something falling, and like it froze right above the tree line and like kind of dripped down. Like it was like an orb, and then like kind of dripped down when it got to that certain height.
So there's a lot of UFO encounters out of the 80s that describe kind of a similar thing.
Yeah.
Where these orbs of light are dripping like slag.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly when this was, but it wouldn't be.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be too long ago, but it wouldn't be like recently, super recently,
Probably not the 80s.
The 80s would fit, so.
Everything cool happened in the 80s.
I mean, it was the hype before the internet. The internet ruined a lot of stuff.
But like we've got plenty of things that we've like had people tell us, you know, like I have a friend that swears he's met a demon at least twice. And like he saw some kind of like thing when he was hunting in Colorado one time that like looked almost like half goat. And he said it was like
Save it. Put a pin in it.
Sorry. But yeah.
We'll do round 2.
Yeah, he's seen a couple of different things. Different family members have seen a couple of different things. I know someone who thinks they've seen a gray, but like
so
yeah,
we've got other things. We've got other things.
Sounds like it. Well, once again, guys, thank you for coming on. Cryptid Investigation Association. Please, everybody, go on YouTube, Facebook, check them out. The 200-person giveaway, I will be sponsoring. I'm going to send these guys a big box of stuff to give away. So be the 200th person or whatever, however they do it. I'm just going to send them a box.
Perfect.
But once again, thank you guys for coming on. Anything else before we end?
Nope, I think that's it. But we've had a great time.
All right, so you know how we like to end these. On the count of 3, we're all going to scream, bye, and we'll just end it like that. You guys ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Bye.
Bye.